The final section in Chapter 3 is talking about how do you solve systems when instead of having 2 equations, you have 3 equations. So what I want to do in this video is recap how do we solve by hand a system of 3 equations with 3 variables, and then I'm also going to use the same problem to show how do we also do it on your calculator, because it's a skill that I want to make sure you can do both ways, partly to check your work, and then partly there will be some problems that will ask you specifically just to use your calculator. So when you're looking at a problem like this, our goal is to use the elimination method. The elimination method was one of our methods for solving systems that allowed us to find variables that were opposites, that would cancel. For example, when I look at line 1 and line 3, what I notice right away is those x's are opposites. You have a positive x and a negative x. That's going to be a natural way to do an elimination. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those 2 lines, I'm going to rewrite them right here. These problems are so important to be organized because they are long, and if you make one little slip up when it comes to your addition or just the rewriting a problem incorrectly, it will throw your entire problem off. When I do this, I'm going to look and say, okay, my x's are eliminated, so I'm going to cancel that, and then I'm going to write down everything else that I get when I add my columns together. I'm going to get a negative y, a positive z, and a negative 2. Now what you have to do, and this is usually where the mistake comes in if students make one, now you have to pick a different combination of lines. So I pick line 1 and 3. I have to pick something different, but I have to get rid of the same variable. So if I already decided to get rid of x's, I need to get rid of x's again, but I can't pick line 1 and 3 this time. What I'm going to do when I look at this, I'm going to pick line 2 and 3. The reason I'm going to pick line 2 and 3 is if I look at the x's, the only thing that's missing here is this needs to be a 4, a negative 4 instead of just a negative 1. So I'm going to take this whole line and I'm going to multiply it by 4. I'm not going to do anything to the line above, so let me rewrite that second line just so you see it. And then I'm going to take that bottom line and I'm going to multiply everything by 4, which is going to give me negative 4x, positive 4y, negative 8z, and 20. When you do this, if you did it correctly, your x's should cancel, which is what you wanted. You end up with 9y minus 7z equals 24. Now you're going to have 2 lines. So you have this one that you got down here, this one you got up here. They should both have the same 2 variables. This one has y's and z's. Now my goal is to do what we did earlier in the chapter. Do elimination again. Now eliminate another variable, either y or z. When I look at these two, really you could go either direction. Let's multiply this whole line by 7. What that does is it makes my z a 7z, which is the opposite of what's over on the other line, a negative 7z. So when I do that, I get negative 7y, positive 7z, and negative 14. Your z's have been eliminated. You have 2y equals 10, which now tells you that y is 5. So I have one piece of information. I need 2 more, but I've really done the hardest work already. Once you know one of the variables, now you just want to work backwards to find the other variables. So use one of the last couple of equations. I'm just going to come right over here, this equation, put in the fact that you know y is 5. So now instead of negative y, it's going to be negative 5 plus z equals negative 2. Add 5 to both sides. You get that z is 3. So now you have 2 of the 3 pieces of information. The only thing I need now is to figure out x. So what I do with my 2 pieces of information that I have is I'm going to go back to one of the original 3 lines, it doesn't matter which one, and figure out what x is. I'm going to go to the very top line and I'm just going to plug in what I know. I know I have x minus 2 times I now know y is 5, plus 3 times I now know that z is 3, equals negative 7. So I have x minus 10 plus 9 equals negative 7. So x, when I combine like terms, I get minus 1 equals negative 7. Add 1 to both sides. I get x to be negative 6. The way I like you to get in the habit of writing your answer is as what's called an ordered triple. What I do is I write x first, so negative 6. Then I write y. Then I write z. It always goes alphabetical order, which is why it's called an ordered triple. It has 3 pieces. And you're done. Let me show you how this relates to what we did in the calculator. So it gives you a chance to practice the calculator steps and double check your answer. When you go into your calculator, what you're going to do is you have to put this information in as what we call a matrix. So your matrix button, you have to hit second, and you have to hit the button that has x and the negative 1. You'll actually see the word matrix above that button. And I gave you these directions on paper, and you can use these directions as you take your test. You want to go to Edit, and we're going to change the first matrix to be 3 by 3. The reason it's going to be 3 by 3 is because we need to put all of the coefficients for x, y, and z into a matrix. So we're going to go over here. We're going to look at this side, and we're going to write down in my matrix what my coefficients are. So in my first line, my coefficient of x is 1. My coefficient of y is -2. And my coefficient of z is 3. So we're writing down how many of each term. So then I go to the next line. My coefficient of x is 4. My coefficient of y is 5. Oh, I need to go back. 4 for that one, 5 for that one. My coefficient of z is 1. And then in the next line, my coefficient of x is -1. My coefficient of y is 1. And my coefficient of z is -2. So we're going to create a matrix. It's called the coefficient matrix. On your test, if you're asked to do it with matrices, I need you to write down this matrix on your test so I can see what matrix you used. Now we're going to go back to that matrix button, so second and the little x to -1, and we're going to edit the matrix that we call B. So choose B under the Edit menu. And we're going to make this one a 3 by 1 matrix. What that means is it has 3 rows, but it's a one single column. In this, you're going to put the constants, it's called the constant matrix. So in that matrix, you're going to type in -7, 4, and 5. You're going to type in the constants exactly the way you see them. So you have 2 matrices in here. Now to get your answer, you want to go back to your matrix menu, so second little x to -1. You want to hit enter on A. Oh, excuse me, I need to get out of here. I'm going to quit, so I'm going to hit second and mode to quit out of here. I'm going to do matrix A, and you'll have a little A show up on your screen. If you ever get to the point where you need to get back to your basic screen, just quit, do the second mode. And then we're going to use the inverse button, which is the little -1 button that you've been hitting all along, but we're not going to hit the second key first. And then times matrix B. It always goes in this order. You'll always be doing the A one first, the bigger coefficient matrix, taking the inverse of that times B. Your screen will always look like that. And then it will give your answer as another matrix, but notice it's the same numbers that we just got, and they'll be in order. So -6 was x, 5 was y, 3 was z. So it's a way to not only check your work, but it's also a way to help you solve really difficult systems that would take much longer to do by hand, and it gives you that ability to work with it, especially if they were ugly matrices where they had decimals or fractions or more than 3 lines where you had 4 equations, 4 variables. This technique with the calculator will solve any of them for you as long as you input the data correctly.